Yeah. All right. Welcome, ConnectHER investors. It's Mariah Carter and the lovely Brittany Carg of ConnectHER investors. Today's date is May 30th, and we have the very handsome Fred Castingaway. I'm probably going to butcher your last name.
Fred's much easier.
Just Fred. Just Fred.
Yes,
Welcome,
Fred.
ladies. Welcome. A great topic, AI. Everybody's talking about it, but how can we leverage it for our own benefit? And Fred is the guy to talk about it. And if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and we will answer them after the presentation today. So thank you for joining us. Anything we're missing, Mariah, before we hand it off to Fred?
The only thing I want to mention, ladies, is Darian Packard introduced us to Fred, because I think she met you at another event, Fred, right?
Yeah. Investment Dominator. Yeah, the LPG.
Yes. So I just wanted to throw this out there. So ladies, we're willing to look at referrals of other businesses you think you'd want to learn more about, or at least expose to our group. Feel free to just shoot us an email introduction. It's connectherinvestors@gmail.com. And we will happy to jump on a call. So how we got on with Fred and just learned about what this whole like reworked.ai is all about. We think it's pretty interesting, and it'll help cut down a heap of time in your efforts getting qualified leads, quality leads. So I'm going to play Vanna White here. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to
always use more time, and AI, if you know how to use it correctly, yes, it will save you a lot of time.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much for, inviting me into your group. I just want to give maybe a 30-40 second backstory of me. This is the fourth company that I've been a part of in getting off the ground. Two, including this one, have been successful, as in more money came out than went in. But the valuable learning that I did on the first two, the mistakes that were made and the things that we picked up, really just, I think, are helping in where we are today. And I was telling Mariah and Brittany, during COVID, my wife and I started a company together overseas, and it was one out of necessity, and it strained and helped our marriage, right? Because we're two very different people, and then now we're working together. And but it was one that was built out of necessity, and then we sold the operating rights, and all of these lessons that were learned. And so I got into AI purely, utterly by accident, right? I've been in real estate and land flipping for the better part of 5.5 years. I primarily use direct mail as my campaign outreach, and I was sending between 10 and 12,000 mailers a month and having good deal flow. And I sent this gentleman a mailer, and he called me. So I got on the phone, I'm giving my pitch, we can close fast and cash, and this is how it works. And he said, okay, full disclosure, I'm not going to sell this property, but I'm getting all of these letters. What are you guys doing? And so I was like, well, okay. So I just shared with him the concept of land flipping and what I've been doing and how. He's like, yeah, but why did you send it to me? He says, I bought the property 6 months ago. I paid full retail. I'm in my mid to late 30s. I'm well in the second quarter of my investment life cycle of my career. I have a good job. My wife is employed. I have 2 young children. I don't seem to be your ideal client. And I said, well, you're not. And you just cost me $1.20 to send you a letter. But it was a nice conversation. And then he dropped the bomb. He says, I'm a data scientist by training. I'm a computer engineer by training. I'm an electrical engineer by training and education. There's got to be a better way to figure out who to mail it to. I said, well, if there was, I'd be all in. So he said, look, I'm a little busy at work. I'll call you in a couple months. And so then I couldn't stop thinking about and started Googling machine learning and all of this. So then we got together. We were in different cities. We ended up flying to meet each other and spent the day getting to know each other and talking about what real estate investors do, how they're reaching out to their clients, where the success is. And we started, when I say we, he started sketching out some algorithms, initial algorithms, using my historical data Then we reached out to some forums online to get data, built more algorithms. But the real trick was you had to get more data. And the data that you're buying or that we're buying from, these online providers, PropStream or whomever, there's not enough information in there to run a machine learning protocol. You need to know the person's age range, credit score range, income range, marital status, where they live, children's membership, subscriptions, or do they have, what magazines, country clubs, do they own a plane? Do they own a boat? How many cars do they own? How many houses do they own? All these things that make us uniquely us. Those can give us insight as to where their head is. And so we started building this to try to understand who's going to reach back out to us. And what we discovered is we were getting about 75% accuracy in predicting who was going to return a phone call or an email and who was going to get back in touch. But 75% is not good enough. But we were discovering that we were predicting about 98% of the people that were actually concluding deals. So this was all over about 6 to 7 months. And then we said, okay, we're going to have to put some money into this. We're going to have to create a platform, hire some people. And so in September 1st of 2022, we went full commercial live. And it was good at first. And then we got on a podcast. We were with somebody and that dropped in January of 23. And my Calendly calendar looked like a German train schedule, right? It was, and it was great. And by getting people inside, the more data that Betty, who's what we call our software, the more data that she saw, the better that she came, the more accurate that she's become at predicting. So we started with land. We quickly moved into single family, multifamily, commercial. And what it's allowing people to do is as Brittany said, it's time and money. There's two things that nobody here, nobody that I know has enough of, right? As I said, I was sending out 10 to 12,000 mailers. That was costing me $8 to $9, $10,000. That's great. You get a couple deals, it's paid for, but it's inefficient. It's wasteful. It cuts down a lot of trees, burns gasoline in the deliveries. And so now using our software, I send between 18 to 2,000 mailers a month. Now I do less deals, right? I was doing 70 deals a year before. Now I do 12, 15 a year because I'm busy with, and as Maria said, I have 2 young children. And I was running back here to get here from soccer practice and jujitsu. So can we get into the presentation now after I've given a little backstory, get into some meat and potatoes?
Yeah. Hey, is it slow for everybody or just me? Could be just my Wi-Fi.
I think, Fred, you were breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
But right now you're stable, so we're good. Well, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay. Give me a high sign. So as I said, this is Reworked AI, and we started as reworkedrei.com, and then we rebranded into reworked.ai because we've since moved into home improvement, solar, water heater, roofing companies. So we wanted to drop the REI, but our core is real estate investors. All right. All right, if we go to the next one. So I gave you the story about Fred and Sham. Sham is he's an Indian by birth. He moved here when he was going to college, met his wife here, worked for many years in high-tech Silicon Valley power companies. He had a plan that he was moving back to India, to Bangalore, with his wife and 2 young children. And that's where he's based now. I was out there a couple months visiting the team. It's been great because, his original intention was to move back so his parents can be around his children. But it's enabled us to access this amazing talent in the Indian market, right? It's just, we have probably 26 employees in India, all around India. And they're the most wonderful, amazing people that I get a chance to work with. Mostly in their 20s. We got a couple of older guys and gals, but just eager and looking to see how they can contribute. So it's beautiful that he's been able to be out there in India and really leverage that talent pool. So really, when we talk about what we want to do is bringing AI, artificial intelligence, to the analog world. Whether it's a direct mailer, whether it's a cold call, whether it's a text, it's very rudimentary. I know a lot of people in our world are scrubbing their data, trying to figure out what's the best person to mail to or to reach, to call, door knock. But at the end of the day, it's still a lot of spray and pray. So about 6, 8 months ago, I was reading this book by Mustafa Suleiman, who's considered somewhat of the godfather of AI. And it was very technical and yet very geographic about how this is impacting the world. But this quote that I got was, "This is AI is everything that we don't know how to do." Right? I mean, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, ChatGPT 4, Gemini, all these things were just starting to pop, and nobody really knew what they were. So it was perfect timing for us because we were already launched. But this is something that is a part of our lives. We've been unwittingly data points for about the last 15 years in some degree in machine learning. Every time we open Netflix or Gmail, why do you think Gmail is free? Because your data, right? It's learning and reading your emails and seeing what you're interested in, right? So the old quote is, if you're not paying for something online, then you're the data, you're the product. So we can move forward. So AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning has been around 15, 18 years, right? Siri, Tesla self-driving cars, Amazon, Alexa, all of these things have been a part of our life for a long time, as I said. ChatGPT is a large language model. These two things are about as different, they couldn't be closer. Machine learning is highly supervised, highly dictated of what the algorithms are going to see on the input, what the algorithms are asking for, and what their output is going to be. Large language models are what they're called unsupervised. Their input is the ocean. What they're trying to figure out is predictive on the next word. The output can be wonky. It can be AI hallucinogenic, right? And that's because of what it's trying to process. And if you hear people talking about the computing power that's associated with AI today, now what's the name of the NVIDIA, right? Their stock has just gone crazy because they're the architects of silicon computing power that is enabling this revolution to take place. Machine learning is quite benign, right? It's pretty boring when it comes to the world of AI. But that's what I want to talk a bit more about machine learning as we move into the next slide. So if I asked anybody here, could you please point out the orange house? Easy. It's binary, one or the other, orange house. The next slide. Orange house, still fairly easy. Anybody could do that. My 8 and 11-year-old, no problem, even when they were younger. Next slide. Starts to get a little bit, got to take a second. Okay, I see 3 orange houses. Next slide. Getting a little bit more complicated as we get into the next slide. So what machine learning does is you teach it what you're looking for. No different than we teach a child or a dog. You teach a child, this is an orange house. This is a pen. This is a glass of water. Repetition. Daddy, mama, papa, they learn it by being told and given an example. Machine learning, the algorithms are given an example. They're shown thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of examples of what a cat looks like versus a dog. Pointy ears, whiskers, shape of the nose. It learns and understands it. So then you can say, okay, find me more cats. It's no different than having a bloodhound and saying, here, smell this. This shirt smells like little Timmy. Find us Timmy. You've told it what you're looking for, and then you've asked it to go get something else. That is machine learning at its simplest explanation. So how we use that in real estate, if we could go to the next slide, is we've told Betty what we're looking for by giving her millions of points of data on the front end and explaining to her that this is what we're looking for. And now, in the first 6 months, we were showing her, we were telling Betty what to look for. After a point in time, because we were telling her what to look for, we had an internal bias as people. Once we got enough data, we could turn Betty loose to say, once we had the feedback loop, oh, here's what you're looking for. Betty's like, oh, I'm learning. That's why it's called machine learning. We learned so much about, here's a simple example. She was discounting a property that was owned by a college, by an institute of higher learning. Because you think, why would a college sell a property off market below retail? But here's the thing. Not every college is the University of Florida. Not every college is the University of Michigan or USC. Some are much smaller. Some are not as sophisticated. Some have pieces of property that they've had and they get a letter and they're like, hey, I could buy this property from you. Like, we've really been trying to sell that property. Let's get this sold. So that nuanced learning that we got through that feedback loop, because our large institutional investors, part of their pricing structure is they need to give us every month what they've sent, where their inquiries were, and what their deals are. So we can judge, and our metric is now 98.6% her prediction rate. She's not perfect. Not saying she's perfect, but 98.6. So we'll break that down into simple terms. If I was still looking to spend between $8,000 and $9,000 a month in my outreach campaign, that means I'm sending 8,000 to 12,000 mailers. So getting a response rate of maybe getting 40 deals out of, or 20 deals out of that information. Now I'd be looking to get 20 deals times 2 times 98.6. So you're going to get 39 deals with the same amount of money spent on your campaign. And some of our clients do that. Some of our clients say, look, I'm going to save the money and still get the deal flow. But it's just a matter of getting better. She's not going to tell you, here's where the needle is. She's just going to say, it's not over here. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money doing the outreach. Don't do the phone call. They're not interested in what you're trying to do. And, we throw this up because so many of us are and have been operating in the traditional office, right? We're trying to scrape and build our business and get out there. And yet the person down the street or your competitor or the person in this group who's using some sort of technology to an advantage, whether it's Chat GPT to write your offer letters or Chat GPT to write your listing descriptions, which is fantastic, or answer any question. I mean, we use Chat GPT in our programming because it's really good, right? Those people in organizations will have an advantage, right? So I love the quote that says, AI is not going to take your job. Somebody that knows how to use AI is going to take your job, right? So we're a small company looking to help real estate investors and now solar providers, solar installers using AI to be smarter about how they're spending their money on their outreach campaigns. Next slide, Maria. So for finding real estate deals, right? That's where we started. It's incredibly simple by uploading a list of 10,000. You create your account, you pick your subscription. There's no commitment, cancel, pause anytime. You upload 10,000. Betty says to you, all right, Heather, I've got your list. I'll be back in touch when I'm done. It's about 2 to 12 hours. And the reason it's 2 to 12 hours is because Betty has to go out and get more information. She has to take the name and the mailing address and triangulate to make sure that that's the right person. That Jenna Smith lives at 123 Main Street, and that's the right person. Then when she triangulates as the right person, she says, okay, what is Jenna Smith's income range? What is Jenna Smith's credit score range? Does she have a partner? Does she have children? All of these things, and she populates it and puts all that information on that file. She does it for every piece of property and owner on that list. But then when she's populated and augmented the data, Then she runs her machine learning algorithms on it. She does not grade on a curve. We say it's about 53% that Betty will come back and say, here, that's where you want to go. But we have people that upload 8,000 and Betty says, mail 1,800. They upload 6,000 and Betty says, mail 5,500. We get the phone call. Well, you said 53%. It's on average. She doesn't grade on a curve. If you got a good set of data with some good deals in there, she doesn't want you to lose a deal, right? So she's going to return your exact data. She's reworked it. On the right-hand side is your Betty score, which is a probability index. And in addition to that, if the USPS has an updated address or corrected address for that person, or they've moved, Betty will supply the new address. So when you do a mailing or whatever you're going to do, you'll have the most updated address, because nothing worse than sending a mailer thinking, oh, and then in your virtual mailbox, you get it back with that yellow slip on it, undeliverable. And it happened to me early on. I got like 80 of these back, and it's heartbreaking, right? So there's almost $100. And then to add insult to injury, I didn't delete them from my virtual mailbox. So then I got an invoice for another $70 to store these letters. So, lessons to learn. Go to the next slide, Mariah. If we don't have this webinar is not long enough to talk about all the mistakes we've made. So Betty is her name. You've heard me say it. And we started off with Betty the bot. And our early marketing efforts said, nope, can't be a bot. Nobody likes a bot. Negative. So we just stuck with Betty. And, it's connotations. We talked to her. How's Betty doing today? The back office work that happens on these files would nobody's looking at these don't see human eyes, right? I don't see files that come in. It goes through all of these gate checks, and if a file starts failing or something goes wrong, an engineer may have to go look and diagnose it. But we've built in all of these checks to make sure that when our clients are paying their hard-earned money, and we'll talk more about that the results that they're going to get, we want at least a 7 to 10 times savings. So what do I mean? You upload 10,000 that you were going to reach out to. Betty comes back and says, mail 6,000. So there's 4,000 mailers that you're not going to mail. $3,000, $2,800, depending on what you were spending if you were doing postcards. You've spent $289, $300 with us. That's the savings. And I think I just want unstable internet. All right, can we go to the next one? So it's no different than social media algorithms. The reason that TikTok is so successful and can pick up that somebody likes playing kittens or carpentry or plumbers is because, again, it's one channel and they have your direct input. They're looking at every time, how much time you spend there, and it takes them minutes to figure out what you like. That's machine learning. The algorithm and then for you. It's the same type of activity that's happening for you. Rather than you being the product of the content, now you can be the user. We'll go on to the next one. So again, it's at least a 2 times lead engagement, at least a 50% savings. Here's what I always tell people. We don't want to be successful by taking your money. We want to continue to be successful by each and every one of our clients feeling this is good money that they're spending, that they feel good about this, subjectively and objectively. If for some reason our clients don't feel that way, just send us an email. Fred, it didn't work. Okay, you're going to get a question of what didn't work? What happened? What type of information did you send out? But ultimately, we're going to give you your money back. Now, please don't do it for a year and then call me and say, oh, none of this worked. I want my money back. But we're going to engage with you and figure out what didn't work, because we want our clients to be successful. We want our clients to think, I got a list. I got to get this to Betty, right? There's no way I'm going to my cold caller. There's no way I'm going to go door knocking. There's no way I'm going to mail without running this through Betty, because it's going to save me time and money. Next slide, right? So Raymond, right, 20-year real estate professional, he was incredibly skeptical. because he had a process in place and it was working for him. And he was a real estate investor, broker, and he just said, why would I do something different? And it's, we have these conversations a lot. Why would you not want to try something different? If there was no risk, if it didn't work, you get your money back. Why would you not want to try to do something else? So since then, he's converted, right? And so many of our clients now, our new clients, come from people that use it, right? People that have been on a webinar like this to start using it, and they're in master classes or talking to their friends, and they're like, yeah, I'm using this and it works. One of the first conversations I had with Seth Williams, who's one of the kind of a guru on land flipping, he asked me the question. He said, Fred, if everybody's using this, does it negate its power? I said, no, because it just means that everybody's saving time and money. We're cutting down less trees and everybody's getting to deals faster, right? It's no different. Will we ever get 100% adoption? I would love it, but I doubt it. So the difference is between using it and not using it. You want to be the one that's using it. So we could go forward, Mariah. So just to recap, it's easy to use. You don't have to be a computer scientist, data engineer. We've worked very hard to make the site intuitive and simple. There is a 1-800 number on the site that you can call 18 hours a day that we're monitoring. There's an email. My email is fred@reworked.ai. You can send me an email. There's no risk, right? Betty is so risk averse. She doesn't want you to miss a deal. So when she's grading between 435 to -220, she recommends contacting anybody over 100 on her probability index. Me, for my mailers, I only mail 220, 240 and above because I'm okay missing a deal. I'm not someone that says, I have to get every deal. I have to be the next Daddy Warbucks. No, I want to judge my time, my inquiries, and deals. If I can bring that to 1 by going a little higher up for probability score, I'm okay with that. I talked about it. There's no minimum. There's no contract. There's no, we have subscriptions. We have pay as you go, right? We price this anywhere from 6 cents to, was it 2 cents 80 a lead, right? You want to take a long vacation over the summer because you're doing so well, you pause, you turn it, stop it. You don't pay. You go away for 3 months and you come back like, all right, I'm ready to go. Let's get back in it. And you unpause and all your information's there, right? We can go to the next slide. So this is Heather. One of the things that we've been doing is we've partnered with Jack Bosch at Land Profit Generator. We've integrated with Investment Dominator. Jack Bosch was one of the people that kind of spurred me into getting into land flipping because my wife wanted to get into house flipping. I didn't want to deal with all the toilets and drywall, and she found Jack Bosch and his wife Michelle online, and I thought to myself, this snake oil salesman is full of you know what. And so thinking I'm smarter than him, I said, you know what, I'm gonna prove him wrong. I'm gonna do everything he says, and I'm gonna prove this doesn't work. Son of a gun. He was right. And I had the pleasure to meet him at a conference last year in Arizona. We've all been to conferences. We got a little badge on. So the first thing you do is you put your hand out, you look at the name, I'm like, nice to meet you, Jack. And I was like, looked at his face. I'm like, Jack Bosch. And so I told him the story and then, begin this conversation about what we're doing, how it could be a product offering for their clients at Land Profit Generator, Investment Dominator. So we go to their conferences, we give a similar type of presentation for the 300 people there. If you're in Investment Dominator, you can buy your data from Investment Dominator. You can send it over to Reworked.ai. Then it comes back over automatically via API. You just need to have a encounter with us one time. So we're really pleased with that. And the more I got to know Jack Bosch and his wife, really genuinely care. They care about their employees. They care about their coaches. They care about everybody that shows up to their conferences. The information that they're giving away, that they're sharing, is worth so much. And if you just listen to what they're saying, you're gonna be successful. And you know, I asked him one time, I'm like, why do you keep doing this? You're clearly well off, right? You could like stop and just retire. And it's obvious. And what he said was, it's the energy. He really, his own journey about how he started off with his W-2 and working 70 hours a week and just not making any progress, and how until he got into this, he says he just loves it, right? And you see the energy when he's up there. You know, it's him presenting. You know, I've been to these conferences where the keynote gets up there for 20 minutes and then disappears into the green room. Jack Bosch is the one there leading this, getting people going, answering the questions. You know, there's other people talking about taxes, but Jack's right there asking the questions about the tax, about the legal, right? And it's 3 days of 9, 10 hours presenting. Anyways, I'm on a Jack Bosch kick. So I'll put my pom-poms down. Next slide, right? So I put a lot out there. I talk fast. I hope you got it all, but if you have questions, I'd love to answer them. If you've got questions about land flipping or questions about AI, machine learning, I'd love to see what I can answer. And if you think of one later tonight, you can always pop me an email, fred@reworked.ai. You can visit the site, you can go to Instagram, and you know, you can learn more. But ultimately, if I could just leave you with this one thing, we want everyone to be successful. Of course, we want to be successful too, right? I mean, that's why we're all here. We're all cash operated. But we want this, we don't charge enough to, you know, take your money and retire. No, we need everybody to keep coming back. We need product innovation. I love what Mariah was saying about, hey, if you got any ideas, if you're on the website and you're like, and you're doing it and you say, hey, could you do this? Right? We had a client said, hey, could you create an ability to look at my list and determine which is the first name and which is the last name? And it sounds quite simple, but as anybody that's been looking at these data lists, sometimes it's first name, last name, sometimes it's last name, first name, sometimes they're different columns. Every data provider is a little different, but he likes to send his letters, dear Fred, dear Mariah, right? Personalize it. And if he doesn't know exactly which one's the first name, then it looks funky and he just wasted money. So Sham and the team have been working on and using large language models to try and sort through that. So that, again, that was an idea that came from a client. We had another client that said, hey, can you tell me the address? Can you correct the address? And he said, but just give it to me. He said, why would we just give it to you? It's just because I don't want anybody else to know the right address, because that means their mailer's not going to get through and mine will. And we're like, okay, but that's not what we're all about. So we were already pinging off the USPS provider to check the address. So you didn't mail it to a bad address, but it would just fail before. Now we said, well, okay, we'll correct it and give the address. And we had a quick conversation. Sham and I said, should we charge for this? No, this is just a product feature, just something more. So when people have ideas, it's like, yeah, great, let's put that in. Because there's really no such thing as a bad idea. And I learned something when I talked to people that are signing up. And on our website, you can go and you can sign up for a 30-minute free call to ask your questions and any particular thing about your business that you'd like to know and how this works. And we're always happy. 90% of the time, it's me and our customer success manager. Sometimes it's not. But I really enjoy having these conversations and getting feedback. So I've rambled on now for, I don't know how long.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Jack Bosch because when I was with Brittany in Cleveland, I bought his program. And because my husband said he wanted to be a Lynn investor. Here, I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody's faces. I'm not even sure if it's coming through in the recording, so stop share. But I keep getting the emails to join the Investment Dominator tutorials, and I keep missing it. So I think it's super cool that you've got your business tied into it. I was just going to ask you a question now that I'm just jabbering on. Have you guys thought about and have you had discussions about maybe joining forces with companies like PropStream and like Backflip is another mobile app that we work with, where you can use your system to help get more qualified leads?
So, yes, we've had discussions with many providers in this world, right? We were just at a solar conference, and the biggest complaint people have is lead fatigue. Just open up Instagram and let it know that you're in some sort of outreach or marketing world, and it's, you know, guerrilla leads this. It's really it's tough to separate the wheat from the chaff. There's a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
We believe in ours, obviously. We believe in our price point. We believe in our non-commitment. We believe in our money back guarantee.
Mm.
You know, we had talked earlier when we had the kind of the prep for this. There's some good services out there. It can be expensive, right? And I know, because I was there and still in there, I get inundated with, hey, look at this new shiny object that you can sign up for.
Yeah.
It's only $1.99. This is going to make your business boom.
Right. Right.
And you know, if we see a lot of people at the LPG conferences that are newbies, 80% are just starting.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of sympathy for them, because, you know, maybe they've got a couple grand, 5 grand ready to go. And all of a sudden, you know, they're signing up for this, and they got Jack's course, and they had the plane tickets and the hotel, and they, you know, and
Guilty.
and all of a sudden, they, you know, their credit card is 5 grand,
Yeah.
and they haven't done the first mailer yet, much less put an offer on a property. And it breaks my heart. It's it's a waste, right? And there's someone
Right.
trying to, if they got a W-2, they're going to add a little something to it. If they're not working, if they're a stay-at-home parent, they're going to try to contribute, right? And yeah, and we're there as well. We're like, oh, you know, it's 149, 289, and 419, you know. And but the thing that makes Sham and I feel good is the money back guarantee, and the
Mhm.
fact that it should between 7 and 10 times savings on mailers and cold calling. It doesn't have the economics if you're doing text. If someone's doing a text campaign, an SMS campaign, it doesn't have
Mm.
the economics, because that's so cheap.
Yeah.
But we all know that the texting and the calling without opt-in, that world is getting bad. And we have a partnership with a print house company, and their owner was sharing with us last month that one of his friends got slapped with a like it was $100,000 fine, because his company was cold calling, and their skip tracing wasn't good, and they got nailed to the wall, right? It's $1,500 an occurrence and going
Ooh.
up. So the old good old fat nobody, you know, I've had people call me like, stop sending me mailers, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir, it's the US Postal Service, and you can't, right? I'm gonna sue you and call the Secretary of State in my state that, you know, you sent me a piece of mail. I paid for the postage. I didn't stick it in your mailbox. So, but it works, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the traditional rates of direct mail are 3.5%. We're in the 7.5%, just because we have that 50% that goes away.
Yeah.
Is there any questions? If there is, come off mute or throw them in the chat.
So,
Hey, Sharon.
hi, I have a question. So, if I'm understanding this correct, so if we ran a list, let's just say on PropStream or whatever, so we would then feed that list into your software, and then it would come back and say, of these 1,000 names and addresses, these 600 are the ones that are likely to respond to your mailer.
Sharon, you're hired. You hit it perfectly.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So you would take your file from wherever your data provider is, First
Mhm.
American, PropStream, doesn't matter. CSV, Excel. You create an account on Reworked.ai. You either pick a subscription or you do pay as you go. Then the little green button becomes dark green, and you put upload, and you go to your computer, you grab it, and Betty says, I got it. Sharon, I got it. 2 to 12 hours later. Occasionally, Betty will say, Sharon, I don't recognize 3 of these columns. Could you help me? And then you got to drag and drop to tell her. Now we're working on a large language model application to be able to read that top. And we're making progress on it because in the beginning, we had a lot of column mapping issues, but it's getting better. So if you did column mapping or not, Betty says, I got it. And you can see in the status bar on your page of where your file is. A lot of our clients will upload a file last thing of the day, right? 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, upload the file. They wake up, they've got an email from Betty that says, Sharon, your file is ready. And this file could potentially deliver you $682 of savings based on the average direct mail cost. Then you go back, you click the button, you go back to your site, sign in, and there's your file. You download it. It's the exact same information. It's reworked, it's reordered. So of your 1,000, they're all still there. On the far right-hand side, there's a new column that's called Betty score. And it goes from 425 to minus 220. And Betty says, if it's 100 or above, that's where your deals are. And then on the just next to that is the updated address. So you can make sure that you've got the right address if you're doing a mailer. It's as simple as that. And all of your files will be on your page on rework.aa. Every time you sign in, you'll see every file that you've done. So if for some reason you lost one, you got to go back, it'll still be there.
Okay. And I know there's another question. One other quick one. So do you all have any data on the type of mailers that are getting the results? Like, is it postcards or is it letters or fake checks, or doesn't matter?
You'd be surprised how often I get that question. So it's a really good question. I have a two-part answer for you. We take your data very seriously. It's yours, right? We don't want to start saying, well, Sharon's sending out mock checks and getting a lot of activity, or Sharon's sending mock checks to Arlington, Virginia and getting a lot of activity. That could be your honey hole, right? And that's yours, right? So we've talked about it. By now we're starting to get enough data where if we wanted, we could look at a heat map of the country of where people are mailing and where they're getting their deals. But again, it's none of our business, right? Me personally, I did postcards. I did blind offers. I like neutral letters. And the reason I like neutral letters is because I don't feel like a bait and switch, right? You don't have enough, you got 8,000 lines, you don't have enough information, you do 35% of the assessed value, you mail it out, somebody calls you all fired up, I'm ready to sell, Fred, I'm ready, I'll sell that property for $8,221. And as you know, I'm looking at the property for the first time, I'm like, that's not an $8,000 property, that's a $2,000 property. Even if that person would sold it for $2,000, guess who they're not going to sell it to? This guy, because he bait and switched. So I do neutral. 3 paragraphs, big font. This is who I am. This is what I can do. This is what it's in for you. It's easy.
Okay.
That's just personal though. We've got some clients that spend hours and hours researching prices and sending out hard offers, and they get deals. They get deals that are signed coming back. I've just never done that.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like Laura Ann always has a question, but it's just her screensaver.
You got Stacy who's got a question.
I do, thank you. So I could see where this process would work really, really well in like single family. I'm curious about the commercial aspect with when you're, I guess, going through the data and finding LLCs and trying to connect with these people who are shielded by their LLC. I'm very interested, or I'm now working in the commercial space, mobile home parks, flex, multifamily. So a lot of these people are not, Jane and John, it's, ABC LLC.
So, and it's not just LLCs, right? It's Incs, it's trusts, there's all kinds of corporations, whatever, that if you pull 10,000 from one of these data providers, maybe 20% could be other than an individual. That's on the residential. On the commercial side, it could be more like 60, 80, 90%. That was a tough nut for us to crack, because in the residential world, Betty's looking at up to 26 unique data points to make her determination of where that person's head is. On the LLC, on the Inc., on that shielding world, we're getting about 12 because not every LLC is the same. When was it incorporated? How many members? Are they current on their filing in the state? Have they paid their taxes, right? So there are attributes. Do they own other properties, right? There are things that can be gleaned from an LLC to determine how active and what they're doing, right? So it's a wonderful question. They're not all the same. The same with trust, right? I mean, if you've got 140 properties under that trust and Betty can find them, then that's probably run by a highly skilled professional, might even be lawyers, right? Not maybe going to be looking to make a off market below retail, but if it's one property and that's it, and it's been there for 15 years and they inherited it, right? So yeah, wonderful question. It is more difficult, but it is possible. It's better than just sending it to all. Now, we have some that are like, they're going after big game. They're going after properties $100,000, $200,000 in the commercial. They do subdivides, but they still want to know the priority, right? So they're going to pull 100 properties from this county or 100 properties from a couple counties. They may be actually going out there and doing some door knocking, right? And doing a more personalized campaign to get in front of that person. And they may not be sending one mailer. They may be sending 8. They may be doing all kinds of different ways because they can make 100,000, 120,000, 140,000 or more on those properties. So of those 100, they can't do it all for 100. So they'll run it through Betty to see what the priority is, where to start, right? And we have other clients that'll run 8,000 through, and for their top tier, they'll spend more on their campaign. They'll send a mock check, which costs more, right? And they'll put some energy into those top 5, 10%. And then the next group, they'll send more of a generic, maybe a lower cost postcards. And then the ones that Betty says there's no deal, they may even text because cost on text is quite low.
Lori Ann, did you have a question? I saw you put hands in the chat, or were you just saying hi?
Hi, you guys. No, I was just saying hi. Good to see everybody.
Okay. Good. Always good
Drive
to
safe.
see you. Other questions, ladies? We're doing great on time. Sometimes we run over, but we may actually end right on time today.
I was just gonna joke with Lori
Either I
Ann.
was-
Hands 10 and 2, 10 and 2. Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. Go ahead, Fred. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say either I was incredibly, I covered everything perfectly, or it wasn't interesting. Time will tell.
We're gonna go with you were thorough, and I feel like this is just a topic that is still very new, so we may not know what the questions are yet until you start using it and you're like, oh, now I have questions.
Yeah, well, and I think when you put it up on your group and the people that are here today, when it germinates, they'll have questions and they can either come to you or they can come to me, they can come to our team. This is not a high pressure sales. This is we're here to help, right? I book these 30-minute calls and sometimes we're an hour in trying to, talk about just like what Stacy was asking, like, no, it was Sharon, like, what are you finding that works, right? I do have the unique position that I've talked to thousands of real estate investors at this point, and I hear what they're doing. I hear what they're, what's working for them. So I'm always happy to share that type of information. So long story short, I'm here if there's questions later on. I genuinely appreciate your attendance and your allowing us to come on and share this. I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. And when we go to these real estate conferences or these conferences, there's just not enough women, right? Just that's how it is. There's just not enough. And so you guys you're doing good work. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Fred.
Yeah, very much appreciated.
Well,
My
we have
daughter's
one more. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So again, kind of going back to the commercial space, and I can take this offline with you, Fred, too. But you know, in the residential space, we use batch leads and PropStream and this and that. What, like in uploading this data, so Betty can take a look at it, what are some of the companies that can pull commercial data?
You're not getting that from, you're not getting a lot of the commercial data from PropStream of this or First American?
I
I mean, I
don't,
use data.
I don't recognize First American. I don't know that one.
So First American is one of the largest, right? They're in the mortgage world. And then they've monetized their data. Everybody keeps their data, either they love them or they hate them, right? I use DataTree, which is a division of First American. I was able to negotiate a pretty good price. We had thought about integrating with them in the beginning to allow us to sell data like priced PropStream. But you're just selling somebody else's data. That's just a markup. So I can see commercial data in DataTree First American. I'm not an expert on who else would have that, but we could chat later about it, and I can ask some of the team what data, because Betty will recognize about 21 unique formats. So I guess the other thing that I should have shared was when you get your data from your provider, don't mess with the columns. You can mess with the rows, don't mess with the columns, because Betty will recognize whose data it is, and it makes it easier. So yeah, don't mess with the columns, but I can ask the team to bring to download a list of all the data providers out there and where we're seeing a lot of the commercial property come from, and I'm happy to share that with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I think that multifamily is probably there, but when we start talking maybe storage units or mobile home parks or RV parks, I don't know, and I really don't know if something like PropStream would have that.
I don't know either, but it's a good question.
Okay.
I can ask our team what's coming in.
Okay.
I mean, that's not,
thank you.
That's not violating anybody's confidentiality. It's just looking at their formats.
I'll send you an email offline, and we can chat about it.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Great questions, by the way. All right. Other questions before we cap it off for the night?
A nice clean hour.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, it was efficient. Definitely learned a lot. I did put the link to the website if you want to go in there and look at their pricing and just read more about it. Of course, feel free to contact Mariah and I directly, or Fred as well. We will post this recording and share the link that's in the chat tomorrow. And if there's other questions, again, once we post it, you can throw them in that comment as well. So
I'm curious who's going to be brave enough just to execute on it. And there's a free trial. I think it says start for $0. I'm curious who's got a list that they can upload and just test it out. Nobody needs to respond.
Bashful.
Yeah, I know. You don't need to respond right now. I'm just
especially
saying.
you, Lorianne. You just focus on driving.
I know, please.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
All right,
Well, I
everybody have a
hope
great
everybody
night.
learned
Lydia and Mariah,
something.
thank you.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Fred.
No, I was gonna say thank you for everything, and I wish everybody have a great night.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Fred.
all of you. We will see you soon.
Go be your moms and
Bye,
dads
everybody.
and take care of your families. I'm
Bye,
going to stop
everybody.
the recording. Thanks, Fred. All right, I'm going to
Thank
stop the
you.
recording.